my friends, we're at Sumner Beach, New Zealand. This is totally different today than what it was back in the late 1800s when this mystery happened. There was a single hotel that stood over there. It was called Day's Hotel, and it was the only accommodation and pub in Sumner at the time. But beyond its welcoming facade, there was a tale waiting to be told. It involved the first ever major insurance fraud from New Zealand, severed hands, and the swift arrival of justice. We are almost on exactly the same spot. We're just over there where all this happened. So we're going back to 1885, and that very boarding house and pub on the side of the cliff there that I showed you. There was a guy there casually sipping his beer, and his name was called Arthur Renard Howard. And after a day swimming at the beach, he was sipping on his beer. That was Saturday the 10th of October 1885, but that's going back a fair way. So as night's about to fall, about 6 o'clock at night, sea breeze slowly starts to blow in, the sun goes down. Everyone's had enough of sunbathing and swimming for the day, and Arthur's standing at the bar making sure that everyone can see him winding his silver pocket watch. And he's also telling anyone that'll just listen to him, oh, I plan to go for a quick dip in the sea, and then I'm just going to catch the bus back to Christchurch after a really awesome day of swimming. Now let's just jump over to Littleton Harbour where the story continues. It's just over here. So if we just go from Sumner Beach here, we go around the point there, we go to Taylor's Mistake, and then a couple of bays around is Littleton Harbour. Just as darkness started to envelop Littleton Harbour, the ferry took off from Littleton, cruising overnight across to Wellington. And amongst the passengers was this weird looking guy who had bright red hair, and he seemed to stick out from all the other passengers. And with it being such a small boat, rumours started flying around almost immediately about this strange looking guy. He seemed to be in some sort of trance, and he was wearing a wig and some sort of weird looking glasses. Some of the passengers even said they were blue glasses. And as the ferry pulled out of Littleton Harbour, he just stood there staring in a trance-like gaze at all the lights slowly disappearing into the distance. As the sun rose the next morning over Sumner Beach, a really weird sight captured everyone's attention. Right on the edge of the water, there was a neat pile of clothes, and right on top of the pile of clothes was Arthur's silver pocket watch. And of course the town was awash with rumours about what happened to Arthur, because what he was supposed to do was have his last drink, go for a bit of a swim, and then catch the coach back to Christchurch. Did he drown while swimming? Or maybe there was a shark just lurking out there waiting for Arthur to swim past and grab a bite of his leg and have something tasty for his dinner. So the locals all banded together and they got a bit of a search party going, and they searched about half a day, and they combed up and down Sumner Beach, but they couldn't find his body anywhere. But when no remains showed up after a full day's searching, a very distressed Sarah, that Arthur's wife, offered a £50 reward for anyone who could find Arthur's remains. Now £50 in today's money is about $8,000, $9,000, so it was a huge amount of money. Meanwhile, back in Wellington, a red-headed labourer going by the name of Watt, and he was a quiet worker. He didn't like to associate with anybody else, and he also expressed a really weird interest in the local cemeteries. Now what's all that about? But on the 14th of December, no word whatsoever for the guy he was working for. He just vanished, just disappeared into a puff of smoke. And the intrigue deepens a bit more when Sarah Howard, Arthur's wife, was spotted meeting up with a red-headed stranger. And they said she was walking around with this guy for about 3 hours before catching the coach back home. Meanwhile, we had a couple of brothers, Alicia and Fred Godfrey, and their two boys, because they planned to take full advantage of Canterbury's public holiday, because the 16th of December was Canterbury's 35th anniversary of the first ever 4 ships coming into Littleton Harbour. So everyone had the day off, and everyone was looking to have some fun. So the brothers grabbed their two boys, they packed up their wagon with all their fishing gear, and they all headed off to Sumner. They then carried all their gear over to Taylor's Mistake, to the Scarborough Heads, so they could fish all day at Taylor's Mistake. Because back in those days, Taylor's Mistake had the best fishing in Canterbury. So here we are at Taylor's Mistake, a favourite fishing spot for the late 1800s. You could catch huge fish here. And this is where our story starts to unfold. So the Godfrey family were having a great day's fishing on those rocks out there. They'd caught a few fish, when all of a sudden this odd looking person comes running up to them over the rocks, yelling and screaming, "Help, help, I've found a hand, I've found a hand." And of course the fishermen thought he said, "We need a hand, we need a hand." As he got a bit closer to them, they noticed that he was wearing sort of some funny goggles and like a red wig. And then he got right up close and they could actually understand what he was saying. He said, a severed hand, I found a severed hand amongst the seaweed just along the beach. And of course the boys just threw down their fishing rods and started following this guy along the beach to see what he'd actually found. So he directed them to a pile of seaweed. And there in the middle of it looked like there was a severed hand. And then all of a sudden the stranger handed over a newspaper that he had folded up, picked up the hand, put it in the newspaper and gave it to our fisherman. And then the guy started babbling on something like, oh, don't tell anyone I was here. I'm a prominent businessman in Christchurch and I don't want to get involved in any sort of criminal activity that will do my reputation no good. So could you guys just please tell the police when you hand it in that you guys found it on Taylor's Mistake Beach and that you never ever seen me here at all. So the brothers agreed and they walked away, but I would be thinking to myself, what the hell's this dude got going on? But anyway, this was 1885, so maybe people thought about things differently. If you were a wealthy businessman, maybe you got trusted more than what you would be now. And you know what, they just took the hand back with them and they continued fishing for the rest of the day before they took it to the local cop shop. And you might think that's a bit weird. Why wouldn't you take the hand straight back to the cops? But as I've shown you, it's quite difficult to get over here, especially go back to the 1885s when you had to climb over the hill with your fishing rods on your back. So they were in no hurry to go home. So when they got back later that day, it was about 2 hours after dark, they took the hand to the cop shop and thought nothing more of it. And they also made no mention to the cops about the stranger because they promised the businessman that they wouldn't divulge his identity. Little did they realise that little white lie was going to get them in a whole heap of trouble. So when they handed the hand into the cops, the same cops were also involved in the search for Arthur along Sumner Beach the day before, so they naturally assumed it must be Arthur's hand. So they immediately go and get Sarah Howard and they bring her into the Christchurch police station to see if it is actually Arthur's hand. She has a quick look at it and with a mix of grief and uncertainty, she identifies it as Arthur's hand due to the gold ring it was still wearing and it had the initials AH scratched into it. But within 3 days, Sarah had gone to the main insurance office in Christchurch and made a claim on Arthur's death insurance. Now get this, guys. Arthur's death insurance was worth £2,400 in 1885. Now that's a huge whopping about $900,000 in today's money, which was huge life insurance for a mechanic back in 1885. Even more suspiciously, that amount was spread over 3 totally different policies with 3 different companies. Of course, Sarah was denied the money, and this was New Zealand's first ever serious fraud case. The local doctors did some investigation into the origin of the hand, and it appeared to be that of a woman. And taking a close look where it was severed from the body, the marks on the hand were more in keeping with a hacksaw blade rather than a bite from a shark. They also had the gold ring examined by a local jeweller, and his testimony was that the scratches with the letters AH were really amateurish and looked like they'd been scratched on with a nail, and he reckoned it hadn't been done any more than 2 weeks before. So on Boxing Day, arrests were made of Sarah Howard and the Godfrey brothers for the attempted fraud of 3 insurance companies. Wow. Of course, they all cried to the judge, I'm innocent, I didn't do anything. But the Godfrey brothers, under pressure from the court, finally told the judge about the mysterious, weird stranger with the bright red hair that they'd met on Taylor's Mistake Beach, and that he had actually found the hand and came and got help from them, asking them to bring it to the local police station. And the police actually found some witnesses who also seen that weird stranger on Scarborough Beach that day talking to the Godfrey brothers. And the witnesses even said to the cops they heard this weirdo as he walked past saying, I found the Howard hand, I've found the Howard hand. But the real break in the case happened January the 4th, 1886, when Arthur, that's right, Arthur, was arrested in Petone, Wellington on a totally unrelated charge. He was at a picnic. He had verbally assaulted this woman at the picnic, and the cops grabbed him and took him into the Wellington police station. But unfortunately for Arthur, when he was standing in the Wellington police station, he almost stood right next to his own picture on the wall, stating that he was a missing person. So when the cops went and searched the boarding house where he was living, they found some really odd items, like 7 coats, women's makeup, lots and lots of different pairs of goggles, and what's more, he was still wearing his red wig. His secret was soon revealed when they carted him back to Christchurch and the whole sordid story came out. The 4 of them faced trial in April 1886. Arthur was convicted of 2 years without hard labour, so at least he didn't have to break rocks. And you know what? The other 3 were bloody acquitted. And the mystery where the hand came from, Arthur never admitted to anything. So where that hand came from, still a mystery. Later the police found out, shockingly, 7 graves had been mucked about with in Waipara in that previous December. But all that remained had both hands. Figure it out, guys. The Howards took the secret of the hands to their own graves. Anyway, my friends, so you thought you knew all about Christchurch and Sumner Beach? There's always a mystery just lurking around the corner. Same as you guys, if you like my videos, remember to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.